The late September rain hammered against the windows of the penthouse, creating a rhythm that matched the nervous flutter in Sarah Kane's chest. She stood in the bathroom of the apartment she shared with her husband Derek Ashford, staring at two pink lines that would change everything. Pregnant. The word felt like magic and terror intertwined. She pressed her palm against her still flat stomach, already feeling the weight of love for this tiny cluster of cells. Derek would be surprised. They'd never explicitly planned for children, but surely he'd be happy. Surely this would bring back the warmth that had slowly drained from their marriage over the past year. Sarah tucked the test into her purse and checked her reflection. At 28, she still looked young, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, minimal makeup highlighting features Derek once said reminded him of classical paintings. She wore jeans and one of his old Stanford hoodies, comfortable in a way that now felt like a mistake. Victoria Chen, Derek's business partner, always wore designer suits and heels that clicked with authority. Stop comparing yourself, Sarah thought, pushing away the insecurity. She was a talented software engineer, had been the lead developer on 3 of Derek's most successful products before he'd asked her to step back and support him from home during the crucial merger phase. The merger. Everything had been about the merger for months. Derek's company, Ashford Technologies, was combining with Victoria's quantum dynamics in a deal that would make them both very wealthy and very powerful. Sarah had watched her husband transform during the negotiations, becoming harder, more calculating, the gentle computer science student she'd fallen for at Stanford buried under layers of corporate ambition. She'd made reservations at Luna, the Italian restaurant where Derek had proposed 3 years ago. She'd ordered his favorite wine, though she wouldn't be drinking. She'd worn a dress instead of her usual casual clothes, emerald green that brought out her eyes. But Derek was 2 hours late. When he finally arrived, he didn't apologize. He slid into the booth across from her, his tie loosened, his expression distant. There was a faint smudge of lipstick on his collar that sent ice through Sarah's veins. "We need to talk," he said before she could speak. "I was about to say the same thing," Sarah replied, her planned speech dissolving into anxiety. Something was wrong. Deeply wrong, Sarah. "This isn't working anymore." Derek's voice was flat, clinical, like he was presenting quarterly earnings. You've become stagnant. While I've been building an empire, you've been playing house. Derek, you asked me to step back from work. You said you needed me to support you, and you've been suffocating me with that support." He cut her off, his gray eyes cold. "I need a partner who matches my ambition, who understands the world I'm building. Victoria and I, we speak the same language." The restaurant noise faded to white static. "Victoria and I, we've been together for 8 months, he said without emotion. "The merger isn't just business. We're building something bigger than both of us, and you don't fit into that vision." Sarah felt like she'd been punched. 8 months. While she'd been home, faithfully managing his life, believing in their partnership, he'd been building a new one with someone else. "I'm pregnant," she heard herself say, the words escaping like a desperate defense. Derek's expression shifted from cold to horrified. "You can't be serious. 10 weeks. I found out this morning. I was going to. This is the worst possible timing." He stood abruptly, drawing stares from nearby tables. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. That baby is your problem, not mine. Victoria and I are getting married next month. We're announcing the merger and our engagement simultaneously. There's no room in that narrative for a pregnant ex-wife, Sarah's voice cracked. "Derek, we're married. We have vows, we have a prenuptial agreement," he corrected coldly. "One you signed willingly. You get nothing in the divorce except what the agreement stipulates, which is essentially nothing. I built this company before we married. My assets remain mine." Sarah remembered signing that document, young and in love, never imagining she'd need its protection. "You're throwing me away because I'm inconvenient. I'm making a strategic decision about my future. You should do the same." Derek pulled out his wallet, dropped $300 bills on the table. "That should cover dinner and a hotel for tonight. I'll have your things sent to a storage facility. Be out of the apartment by noon tomorrow, Derek, please." We can work this out. The baby is not my concern. His voice dropped to a whisper, vicious and final. Honestly, Sarah, did you think you could trap me with a pregnancy? That's pathetic. Get rid of it or don't, but either way, you're no longer my responsibility. He walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Sarah sat frozen, the congratulatory speech she'd prepared mocking her from the depths of her purse where the pregnancy test remained hidden. The waiter approached tentatively, concern on his young face. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" "No," she whispered. Nothing is all right. She used Derek's cash to pay for a hotel room that night, a budget place that smelled of industrial cleaner and stale cigarettes. She lay on the scratchy comforter, staring at the water-stained ceiling, her mind unable to process the magnitude of what had happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Derek told me about your situation. Don't try to contact him or make trouble. You signed away your rights." Victoria. Sarah turned off her phone. She pressed her hand against her stomach, feeling nothing yet but knowing life was there, depending on her. She had no job, no savings of her own, no family. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, no support system. Derek had systematically isolated her over the past year, convincing her to leave her job, to focus on him. She had nothing except she did have something. She had herself. She had her education, her skills, and she had a child who would need her to be stronger than she'd ever been. The rain continued through the night, and Sarah Kane cried until there were no tears left. Then, in the cold light of dawn, she began to plan. Not for revenge, not for reconciliation, but for survival. She had no idea that survival would lead her to an inheritance beyond imagination, or that the man who'd cast her aside would one day beg for her mercy. All she knew was that she would not break. She would bend, she would transform, but she would not break. Should do the same. Derek pulled out his wallet, dropped $300 bills on the table. That should cover dinner and a hotel for tonight. I'll have your things sent to a storage facility. Be out of the apartment by noon tomorrow, Derek, please. We can work this out. The baby is not my concern. His voice dropped to a whisper, vicious and final. Honestly, Sarah, did you think you could trap me with a pregnancy? That's pathetic. Get rid of it or don't, but either way, you're no longer my responsibility. He walked out of the restaurant without looking back. Sarah sat frozen, the congratulatory speech she'd prepared mocking her from the depths of her purse where the pregnancy test remained hidden. The waiter approached tentatively, concern on his young face. "Ma'am, is everything all right?" "No," she whispered. Nothing is all right. She used Derek's cash to pay for a hotel room that night, a budget place that smelled of industrial cleaner and stale cigarettes. She lay on the scratchy comforter, staring at the water-stained ceiling, her mind unable to process the magnitude of what had happened. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Derek told me about your situation. Don't try to contact him or make trouble. You signed away your rights." Victoria. Sarah turned off her phone. She pressed her hand against her stomach, feeling nothing yet but knowing life was there, depending on her. She had no job, no savings of her own, no family. Her parents had died in a car accident when she was 19, no support system. Derek had systematically isolated her over the past year, convincing her to leave her job, to focus on him. She had nothing except she did have something. She had herself. She had her education, her skills, and she had a child who would need her to be stronger than she'd ever been. The rain continued through the night, and Sarah Kane cried until there were no tears left. Then, in the cold light of dawn, she began to plan. Not for revenge, not for reconciliation, but for survival. She had no idea that survival would lead her to an inheritance beyond imagination, or that the man who'd cast her aside would one day beg for her mercy. All she knew was that she would not break. She would bend, she would transform, but she would not break. There was a pause. Lena stood frozen in the hallway, her heart pounding not with jealousy but with grim confirmation. "The best," Marcus replied. That evening, Lena packed her bag for the summit. Not as a guest, not as someone's wife, but as the person who'd quite literally bought the platform. She folded the midnight blue gown with care, added Helena's final revisions to her speech to her tablet, and laid out the platinum and sapphire jewelry on her dresser. Marcus found her there, mistaking her preparation for something else entirely. "You're not seriously still upset about the guest list, are you?" he asked, his tone hovering between irritation and condescension. "Lena, I thought we'd moved past this." "We have," she said, and meant it. "I'm not upset at all." "Good." He kissed the top of her head absently, already thinking about tomorrow. "I'll be home late tomorrow night. The after-parties usually run until 2 or 3 in the morning. Enjoy yourself," Lena said. After he left, she stood at her window looking out at the Palo Alto lights spreading below. Somewhere in that constellation of wealth and innovation, people were preparing for tech vision, believing they knew what would happen. Marcus and Vivian would shine. Deals would be made. The future would be discussed by the people who mattered. None of them had any idea that the future was being rewritten by a woman they'd made invisible. Tomorrow night, she wouldn't be watching from home. Tomorrow night, she would be the event. The Tech Vision Summit took place at the Moscone Center in San Francisco, transformed for one night into a cathedral of innovation. Lena arrived alone in a hired car, deliberately timing her entrance for after the red carpet frenzy. She watched from a distance as Marcus and Vivian posed for photographers, his arm around her waist, both of them radiating power couple energy. "NextGen's dynamic duo," one journalist called out. "Marcus, is this the future of tech leadership?" "Vivian and I represent the kind of collaboration that drives real innovation," Marcus replied smoothly, and cameras flashed with approval. Lena felt nothing watching this performance. She'd moved beyond hurt into a space of cold clarity. She waited until they'd entered the venue before stepping out of her car. The midnight blue gown transformed her. It caught the light with every movement, the geometric patterns shifting like quantum states. Her grandmother's platinum and sapphire jewelry glinted dark and powerful against her skin. She'd left her wedding ring at home. She entered through a side entrance where Patricia Wells waited, vibrating with nervous energy. "Dr. Morrison, thank goodness. We're ready for your entrance exactly as planned." Patricia studied her with undisguised admiration. "That gown is absolutely stunning. You look like you own the night." "I do," Lena said simply. "I bought it." Inside the main hall, 3,000 tech industry leaders mingled among tables topped with centerpieces of fiber optic lights that mimicked stars. Massive screens displayed the Morrison Quantum Research Institute logo, though most attendees didn't know what it meant yet. At table 1, Marcus sat with Vivian beside him, both holding court with venture capitalists and tech journalists. The lights dimmed. The program was beginning. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed through the sound system. "Welcome to the Tech Vision Summit, an evening dedicated to innovation, disruption, and the future of technology." Marcus straightened in his seat, preparing for his moment. The screens showed a montage, but not the corporate puff piece he'd expected. Instead, complex equations appeared, transforming into visual representations of quantum entanglement, data encryption, and breakthrough computing architectures. "This year's summit was made possible by an extraordinary benefactor," the MC continued. "An institution at the forefront of quantum research, a pioneer in technologies that will reshape our world. Please welcome to the stage the founder and director of the Morrison Quantum Research Institute, Dr. Lena Morrison." The silence that followed was profound. Marcus's face drained of color. Vivian's eyes went wide. 3,000 heads turned toward the wings as Lena walked onto the stage. She moved with purpose, each step deliberate in heels that clicked against the hardwood like a metronome. The lighting caught her gown, turning her into a figure of dark elegance and unmistakable power. She reached the podium and stood there for a long moment, letting the industry absorb who she was. "Good evening," she began, her voice amplified and clear. "For those who don't know me, I'm a quantum physicist. I've spent the last decade developing technologies that will fundamentally change how we process information, secure data, and understand the universe itself." She clicked to the next slide, showing a patent diagram. "This is the Morrison encryption protocol, currently being implemented by 6 of the 10 largest tech companies in the world. It makes current cybersecurity look like using a diary lock on the Pentagon. 5 years transformed Sarah Kane from a broken woman into a force of nature. She'd spent those years in intensive study, working with the world's best business strategists, tech innovators, and leadership coaches. Kane Industries, under her silent guidance, had evolved from a respected legacy company into a cutting-edge powerhouse in AI and quantum computing. Lily was now 5 years old, bright and curious, speaking 3 languages and asking questions that made Sarah's heart swell with pride. They lived in a private estate outside Boston, far from Derek's world, building a life of purpose and joy. Sarah had kept meticulous tabs on Derek. His merger with Victoria had initially succeeded, creating Ashfordshire Technologies, but cracks had appeared quickly. Victoria's aggressive expansion had overextended them financially. Competitors were eating their market share. Derek's signature product line was becoming obsolete. More importantly, Sarah had been positioning Kane Industries strategically. Through shell companies and careful acquisitions, she'd bought up key suppliers that Ashfordshire relied on. She'd invested heavily in startups developing superior alternatives to Derek's technology. She'd waited patiently for the perfect moment to reveal herself. That moment came at the Global Tech Innovation Summit in San Francisco. The event drew every major player in the industry. Derek was there, desperately networking, trying to find investors to save his struggling company. Sarah watched the attendee list, saw his name, and smiled coldly. "Mommy, you look like a queen," Lily said that morning as Sarah prepared to leave. Sarah wore a tailored charcoal suit that whispered power, her dark hair styled in an elegant updo, minimal jewelry except for a stunning emerald necklace, her grandmother's favorite. She looked nothing like the broken woman Derek had discarded. "Thank you, sweetheart. Remember, stay with Elena today. Mommy has important work." The summit's opening reception buzzed with energy. Sarah arrived deliberately late, making an entrance that turned heads. People whispered, trying to place her. The mysterious CEO of Kane Industries, who'd remained anonymous for years, was finally appearing in public. She moved through the crowd with confidence, accepting introductions from tech titans and venture capitalists. Then she saw him. Derek stood near the bar with Victoria, both looking strained. His company's struggles showed in the tension around his eyes, the forced brightness of his networking smile. He'd aged, the boyish charm replaced by something harder and more desperate. The summit organizer approached with a microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, we have a special guest tonight. Please welcome the CEO of Kane Industries, the company revolutionizing quantum computing and artificial intelligence, Dr. Sarah Kane." The applause was thunderous. Sarah took the small stage, her presence commanding the room. She spoke briefly about Kane Industries' vision, their breakthrough technology that would make current systems obsolete, their commitment to ethical innovation. Derek's face had gone pale. He stared at her, confusion morphing into recognition and then horror. Sarah met his eyes across the room, her expression cool and professional. After her speech, she was surrounded by admirers. Derek pushed through the crowd, Victoria trailing behind looking equally shocked. "Sarah," his voice cracked. "Is that really you?" "Mr. Ashford," she said coolly, extending her hand for a professional handshake. "I don't believe we've been formally introduced in this context. I'm Dr. Sarah Kane, CEO of Kane Industries." "Dr. Kane Industries," he stammered. "But you were, how is this possible?" "Genetics and inheritance," she replied smoothly. "My grandmother was Dr. Eleanor Kane, founder of the company. She left me her legacy. I've spent 5 years preparing to lead it." Victoria stepped forward, her sharp eyes calculating. "This is impossible. You were nobody. You had nothing." Sarah's smile was glacial. "I had everything that mattered. Education, intelligence, resilience. I just needed the resources to apply them. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have meetings with several of your former clients. They're quite interested in our new quantum processors." "Sarah, wait," Derek grabbed her arm, then immediately released it when security stepped forward. "We need to talk. Privately, do we? I can't imagine what we'd have to discuss, please." Desperation cracked through his composure. 5 minutes, against her better judgment, Sarah nodded. They moved to a quiet corridor, Victoria wisely staying behind. I made a mistake, Derek began. Throwing you out, I was cruel, I was wrong. But Sarah, you have to understand the pressure I was under. The merger, the expectations, don't, her voice was sharp as broken glass. Don't you dare try to justify what you did. You threw your pregnant wife onto the street because she was inconvenient. You called our child a mistake. Our child, his eyes widened. You kept the baby, her name is Lily. She's 5 years old, brilliant and beautiful, and you will never know her. That was your choice. Derek's expression shifted through emotions, landing on calculation. Sarah, if we have a child together, we should discuss custody, support. You signed away all rights when you abandoned us, Sarah interrupted. Legally and morally, you are nothing to her. And as for support, I think my $83 billion net worth covers it. The number hit him like a physical blow. 83 billion, conservative estimate. Kane Industries is about to announce a major breakthrough that will render your current technology obsolete. In fact, we're launching a direct competitor to Ashford in every market segment. I thought you should know, as a professional courtesy, you're targeting my company specifically. Derek's voice rose. This is revenge? No, this is business. You taught me that everything is strategic. My grandmother's company simply happens to be better than yours. The market will decide the rest. Sarah turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Derek? Thank you, for what? For throwing me away. You freed me to become someone extraordinary. If you'd kept me as your diminished little wife, I'd never have discovered my own power. So really, I owe you everything. She walked away, leaving him standing alone in the corridor, the full weight of his mistake finally crushing down on him. Back at the reception, Sarah accepted congratulations and partnership offers. She saw Derek and Victoria arguing intensely near the exit. Perfect cracks in their perfect partnership. The game had begun. And Sarah was playing to win. The announcement came 3 weeks after the summit. Kane Industries unveiled Horizon, a quantum computing system so advanced it made current technology look like stone tools. The response was seismic. Major corporations cancelled contracts with Ashford, desperate to partner with Kane instead. Sarah watched the dominoes fall with clinical precision. She'd spent 5 years preparing this moment, and every move had been calculated. She wasn't being cruel, she was being efficient. Derek had taught her that business was war by another name. Ashford's stock plummeted. Investors panicked. Victoria called an emergency board meeting, her face appearing on business news channels, pale and angry. Kane Industries is engaging in predatory practices, she declared. This is personal vendetta, not fair competition. Sarah responded with a press release. Kane Industries competes on innovation and quality. If Ashford feels threatened, perhaps they should focus on improving their products rather than making accusations. The tech press ate it up. The narrative was irresistible: brilliant self-made CEO versus her ex-husband's failing company. Sarah's backstory leaked carefully, anonymously, the woman abandoned while pregnant, now a titan of industry. Public opinion turned decisively against Derek. Victoria showed up at Kane Industries headquarters unannounced. Sarah's assistant buzzed her. Ms. Chen is here demanding to see you. Send her in, Sarah said calmly. Victoria entered like a storm, designer heels clicking against marble. She looked older, the stress showing in lines around her mouth. You need to stop this. Stop what? Running my company? You know what I mean. You're destroying us deliberately. Call off your dogs, Sarah. Whatever Derek did to you, I wasn't part of it. Weren't you? Sarah leaned back in her chair. You were sleeping with him for 8 months before he threw me out. You sent me that threatening text. You built your partnership on the ruins of my marriage. I didn't know you were pregnant, Victoria said quietly. Would it have mattered? Victoria was silent. I thought not. Sarah stood, walking to her window overlooking Boston. "I'm not calling anything off. Kane Industries is doing what it does best, innovating and competing. If Ashfordshire can't keep up, that's a market reality. Derek is falling apart. The stress, the failure, it's destroying him." "Then he knows how I felt 5 years ago," Sarah turned back, her expression hard. "The difference is, I built something from that destruction." "What will he build?" Victoria left without another word. 2 months later, Ashfordshire filed for bankruptcy protection. The merger that was supposed to create an empire had instead created a spectacular failure. Investors sued. The board forced Derek out. Victoria disappeared to rebuild her own reputation. Derek called Sarah's private line, a number he should never have had. "How did you get this number?" "Please, Sarah. I'm losing everything." His voice was broken. "The house, the company, everything I built. Have mercy." "Mercy? You want mercy?" Sarah's laugh was bitter. "Where was your mercy when I was homeless and pregnant? When I had nothing and no one? I know I don't deserve it, but please. Not for me. For our son." Sarah went very still. "What did you say?" "Our son. He's 4 years old. His name is Derek Jr. Victoria and we have a son." Of course he did. He'd started a new family with Victoria, giving their child the love and recognition he'd denied Lily. The irony was almost funny. "Congratulations on your son," Sarah said coldly. "I hope he never learns what kind of man his father really is." "But Derek, I don't have a son. I have a daughter, Lily. And she's the reason I can't show you mercy. She needs to learn that actions have consequences, that cruelty doesn't go unpunished, that her mother is strong enough to protect her." "Sarah, please. Kane Industries is offering to buy Ashfordshire's remaining assets for pennies on the dollar. You can accept and walk away with enough to live comfortably, or you can refuse and end up with nothing. Those are your options. You've already won. Why do this? Because you taught me that winning isn't enough. You have to dominate. You have to make sure your enemies can never threaten you again. I learned from the best." She hung up. The acquisition went through. Derek signed the papers in a small conference room, his empire reduced to a settlement that would support him but never let him rebuild. Sarah didn't attend the signing. She'd already moved on to bigger things. That night, she tucked Lily into bed. "Mommy, why are you sad?" "I'm not sad, sweetheart. Just thoughtful. Did you win your big business thing?" Sarah smiled. "Yes, I won." "Good. You always win because you're the smartest and strongest." Lily's faith was absolute. Sarah kissed her daughter's forehead. She had won. Completely, totally, devastatingly. But the victory felt hollow. She'd proven her point, reclaimed her power, but somewhere in the process, she'd become exactly what Derek had been, ruthless, cold, willing to destroy without mercy. Was that who she wanted to be? The question kept her awake long into the night. 1 year later, Sarah stood at the podium of the Women in Tech Global Conference, looking out at 3,000 faces. She'd been asked to give the keynote, to share her story of success. But as she looked at these women, hungry for inspiration, she knew she couldn't just tell them about winning. "My name is Dr. Sarah Kane," she began. 5 years ago, I was homeless and pregnant, thrown away by a man who saw me as disposable. Today, I run an $80 billion company. But that's not the story I want to tell you." She saw Derek in the back of the auditorium. He'd been invited as a minor participant, his fall from grace complete. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt nothing. No anger, no triumph, just a distant sadness for who they'd both become. "I want to tell you about the year I almost lost myself," Sarah continued. "I spent 5 years preparing for revenge. I built an empire partially to prove my worth to a man who never valued me. I destroyed his company because I could. And when it was over, when I'd won completely, I felt empty. The audience was silent, riveted. My daughter asked me one night if winning was worth it if it made me sad. And she was right. I'd become so focused on crushing my enemy that I'd forgotten why I started this journey. Not for revenge, but for her. For us. To build something meaningful. Sarah talked about the foundation she'd established for single mothers, the scholarships for women in STEM, the mentorship programs connecting young girls with tech leaders. This is the empire that matters. Not the one built on someone else's ruins, but the one built on lifting others up. After her speech, journalists surrounded her. What about Derek Ashford? Do you regret what happened to him? I regret that he never learned the lessons he could have. I regret that his son will grow up with a father who chose pride over growth. But I don't regret standing up for myself. There's a difference between justice and vengeance, and I learned that difference. Derek approached her during the networking reception. That was a good speech. Thank you. Sarah's voice was neutral, professional. For what it's worth, you were right. About everything. I was cruel and stupid and I threw away something precious. He looked genuinely remorseful. Victoria and I divorced. She's doing well, found a better partner. And I'm trying to be better for my son. I hope you succeed in that. Lily, is she happy? Deliriously. She has a mother who adores her, a stable home, every opportunity in the world. She doesn't need anything from you. I know. I hope one day she'll understand that I was a coward who made terrible choices, not because she wasn't wanted, but because I wasn't strong enough to be her father. Maybe someday, when she's older, if she wants to know you, I won't stop her. But Derek, that's her choice. Not yours, not mine. He nodded, accepting the boundary, and walked away. Sarah found Dr. Marcus Chen waiting near the conference room. They'd met at an AI ethics conference 6 months ago, bonding over debates about consciousness and machine learning. Marcus was brilliant, kind, and completely unintimidated by her success. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. Very ready. They drove to her home where Lily waited with the nanny. When they arrived, Lily launched herself at Sarah. Mommy. Did you do your big talk? I did, sweetheart. And did you tell them you're the best? Sarah laughed, catching Marcus's warm smile. I told them that being the best means lifting everyone up, not crushing anyone down. That's even better, Lily decided. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Sarah and Marcus sat on her terrace overlooking the city. You did something remarkable today, he said. Acknowledging that winning isn't always everything, that takes real strength. I'm still figuring it out, Sarah admitted. Some days I'm still angry. Some days I want to push even harder, prove even more. But then Lily asks me to play dolls or read her a story, and I remember what actually matters. You've built an incredible legacy. The technology, the foundation, the lives you've changed. I had help. My grandmother's legacy, good advisors, luck. Sarah looked at him. And I'm learning that having a real partner makes everything better. Someone who sees me as an equal, who challenges me, who isn't threatened by my success. Marcus took her hand. Is that your way of saying you're glad I'm around? It's my way of saying I'm grateful. Grateful for Lily, for second chances, for building something real instead of just destroying what hurt me. 6 months later, Marcus proposed. Lily was the one who carried the ring, solemn and proud of her important job. They married in a small ceremony with close friends and family, no media, no spectacle, just love and commitment. Derek sent a card. Just 2 words, be happy. Sarah filed it away, another chapter closed. At the wedding reception, Lily tugged Sarah's dress. Mommy, is Marcus going to be my daddy now? If you want him to be, sweetheart. I do. He's nice and he makes you smile, real smiles, not work smiles. Out of the mouths of babes, Sarah thought. 1 year after the wedding, Kane Industries announced a major breakthrough in medical AI that would revolutionize cancer treatment. Sarah stood at the press conference, Marcus by her side, Lily watching from the wings with adoring eyes. This technology isn't about profit, Sarah explained. We're making it available to hospitals globally at cost. Because innovation means nothing if it doesn't serve humanity. Later, a young journalist approached her. Ms. Kane, they say you're living proof that success is the best revenge. Is that true? Sarah thought about Derek, struggling to rebuild. About Victoria, who'd found genuine success elsewhere. About herself, standing here with everything she'd built. No, she said finally. The best revenge is building a life so full and meaningful that you forget to care about revenge at all. The best revenge is becoming so completely yourself that the person who hurt you becomes irrelevant. She looked at her family, her company, her foundation, her legacy. She'd been cast out, discarded, deemed worthless. And from those ashes, she'd built an empire. But more importantly, she'd built a life. A real one. With love and purpose and joy. That was the victory that actually mattered.